able to meet tonight by video conference. If the open meeting law exemption is not extended, our April meeting will be in person. And that's our current expectations. When we meet in person, we do not yet know if a YouTube recording will be available, but we expect to post an audio recording. Tonight, we are live streaming to YouTube on the Lewisboro TV channel so the public can view our meeting. No one is at our in-person meeting location at 79 Boughton. This meeting is being recorded. Kirsten Conrad has confirmed that the YouTube feed is active and working, and that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements fulfilled. We intend to post a recording and a transcript of this meeting to the town website. The Zoom video will also be available on the town's YouTube channel. Joining me on the Zoom conference from the town of Lewisboro are members of the planning board, Charlene and Delicato, Jerome Kerner. I just saw that Greg LaSorsa is joining us, and Bruce Thompson. We have a quorum, and thus we can conduct the business of the board and vote on any matters that come before the board. Greg is still, okay, you got him. Also on the conference, the planning wetland consultant, Jan Johannesson. I don't think our council, Judd Siebert, is on quite yet, but we expect him within a few minutes. The planning board administrator, Kirsten Conrad, is on, and also the CAC chair, John Wolf. We do not have a public hearing scheduled for tonight. We do not expect to take any public comments at this meeting. Members of the public can always express their views by mail or by email to planning@lewisborogov.com. And again, the public can see and hear this meeting via Zoom or live on the Lewisboro TV YouTube channel. As usual, we ask any applicants that are not currently engaging in dialogue to mute their lines. This will help everyone hear over the inevitable background noises. As it comes time to record our votes, I will poll the board members individually. Tonight, I also expect that we will go into an executive session, which we will do by going into a breakout room, which will not be seen on the YouTube feed, and then we will return and complete the meeting. So with that, let's get going. The first item on our agenda is a decision on calendar number 04-19 PB, calendar number 17-19 WP, calendar number 06-19 SW. This is Pound Ridge Stone, 2 West Road, South Salem, New York. This is a request for an extension of a site development plan, wetland, and stormwater permit approvals, and actually for a slight amendment to the resolution. And I believe we have that resolution that has been circulated before us. If there's no other questions, I'll ask Jan to briefly go through the resolution.
Sure. So resolution for Pound Ridge Stone, 2 West Road. It's an amendment to the planning board's August 17th, 2021 resolution. It's a request, response to a request made by the applicant to amend the resolution. The project, I'm sure you're all aware of, was for the legalization of an existing landscape business located at that property, the construction of a storage building, the continued use of retail and office space, parking lot improvements to support 24 parking spaces, 4 of which are going to be land banked, material storage bins, stormwater management facilities, landscaping, and wetland mitigation. That was the project. The board issued a seeker negative declaration and a approving resolution on August 17th, 2021. You recently granted a 1-year extension to that resolution at the last meeting on February 15th, 2022. One of the proposed improvements includes the elimination of an old curb cut and driveway entrance off Smith Ridge Road. The property and project rely on access from West Road. This is just an old curb cut that the applicant proposed to eliminate. And the elimination of that curb cut required a highway work permit from the New York State DOT, Smith Ridge Road being a state road. And the August 17th resolution required that permit be granted by the DOT prior to the signing of the site plan. And the applicant has indicated that it's made application to the DOT for that work, and quite some time ago, and has not heard a response, and is anxious to get going on the improvements on the property. So at the last meeting, the board discussed this, and the board agreed that condition regarding the issuance of the DOT permit could be a condition that could be satisfied prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, as opposed to prior to the signing of a site plan. This would allow the applicant to complete the remaining conditions, get the site plan signs, get building permits, and start construction. A CO, the way the resolution's written, a CO could not be issued until that work is obviously completed, and with the issuance of a DOT permit. And in the interim, as discussed at the last meeting, that driveway would be barricaded in the interim by the applicant to the satisfaction of the building inspector. So that is the resolution that's before you. It's simply taking the DOT condition and moving it towards prior to the CO, allowing the applicant to get started on the project. Even if for some reason the DOT didn't issue the permit, the project could really go on just as it is proposed. This is really just some landscaping improvements and closing off that DOT right away. So it really doesn't have an impact on the project. We thought it was, the request was applicable.
Right. Great. Anybody have any other questions? Jerome, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the resolution as drafted and recited by Jan.
Second.
Thank you, Charlene. I will say, I think there were a couple of typos that in what was circulated to us, and I believe they've been updated, but they were like spelling errors, nothing that had anything to do with the content of the resolution. So we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll poll. Charlene?
Aye.
Jerome?
Yes.
Bruce? You're muted.
How's that?
We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Aye.
And Greg?
Yes.
And I'll say aye as well, so the motion carries. The resolution is approved. Thank you very much. Any questions from anyone, the applicant on that? Okay, great. Then we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is an extension of time request. This is, calendar number 1-14 PB, calendar number 7-14 WP, calendar number 1-14 SW. The Pinero subdivision on 930 Old Post Road, Route 35, Cross River, New York. This is an application for a preliminary subdivision plat approval, final subdivision plat approval, wetland activity permit approval, and the stormwater permit approval. The subdivision plat was signed in 2015, but the wetland and stormwater permits expire on May 19th, 2022. So who is on for that?
Yes. Hi, Chairwoman Anderson. I represent Mr. Pinero. Okay, so good evening, everyone on the board. My name is Dominique Albano, and I'm an associate at Zarin & Steinmetz, and I'm here this evening representing Mr. Pinero in his request for an extension of the wetland activity permit and stormwater permit for real property located at 930 Route 35. Joining me this evening is Mr. Pinero, the current owner of the property, and attorney Nam Bashraktari, who's counsel for the prospective purchaser. As you may recall, the board originally granted the subdivision, wetland, and stormwater approvals for the property in 2014, allowing for the 2-lot subdivision. As you mentioned before, following initial approvals, Mr. Pinero filed the approved subdivision plat in the county clerk's office on April 28, 2015. For a variety of reasons, including personal and recently the pandemic, the Pineros have not commenced the approved work on Lot 2. As such, this board granted extensions for the wetland and stormwater permits in November of 2018 and June of 2020. The current approvals for the property are set to expire on May 19, 2022, and the Pineros have entered into a contract of sale for the sale of both Lot 1 and Lot 2, and the prospective purchaser has requested that we seek an extension of the wetland and stormwater permits for the property. Just as way of background, Cronin Engineering has confirmed that the site conditions remain the same on the property. So therefore, the Pineros are respectfully requesting your town planning board to grant a 2-year extension of the wetland and stormwater approvals for the property.
Okay, so I will note that the resolution currently refers to the New York general permit back from it that was in effect at the time when this was done in 2014. And of course, even if we grant the extension of the stormwater permit at the time construction begins, the then current stormwater permit will apply. So even though the resolution that we would be extending here would refers to the old permit, the permit in effect at the time of when construction begins is the one that actually applies. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. And I reviewed that with Jan. If I said anything wrong, please update me.
Yeah, no, that was correct. I don't think there's been any material change that would affect this project from one permit to the other. But they're, when they do go to apply for building permits, they have to prepare the correct Speedy's general permit. I don't suspect there'll be any problems, but I think it was good that you noted that for the record.
Great. Okay, any questions or any other comments on this? And if not, I'd look for a motion to extend the wetland and stormwater permits for 2 years with this, with the understanding or the proviso that the stormwater permit referred to in the original resolution sort of automatically updates to the the current stormwater permit.
So move.
Thank you, Charlene.
I'll second.
Bruce is seconding. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'll poll the board. Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I also say aye. So the motion carries and the extension is granted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a sketch plan review, and this is calendar number 03-22 PB Arbor Hills Water System on Bundridge Drive and Goldens Bridge, New York. This is the application for the construction of a water treatment facility. And I don't know exactly who is on for that.
Hello, board. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Sean Peters. I'm with H2M Architects and Engineers. Joining me on this call today is Christopher Peters from Liberty Utilities and John Kilpatrick from Liberty Utilities.
Okay.
So this is the first time I've been on a virtual meeting with the town board. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, you do.
Okay, just making sure. 1 second. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to provide some background for the board on the project. I know we did receive a memo from the Office of Calorie Sessions. We have no objection to those comments, and we'll look to address those in our next submission. So I just wanted to give some background on the project, but if you have any questions or can't see anything, just let me know. Just so you know, this site is an existing water supply and treatment facility, existing utility use in the R2 zone. The site currently has a treatment building. It's a one-story concrete building, as well as 4 wells, which provide water to the site and to the adjacent Arbor Hills subdivision. The Arbor Hills subdivision consists of approximately 210 people, 67 service connections, and averages about 28,000 gallons per day. So in our water quality testing that's performed on this site, it was noted that there are some impurities in the drinking water which exceed the New York State Department of Health's requirements. So our office and Liberty Utilities has been diligent in contacting the DOH and working with them on some preliminary designs for this new water treatment building. So what we're before you here today is to present this new water treatment building and associated site improvements. So we anticipate this building is going to be approximately 16,080 square feet. This does meet the criteria for a type 2 under seeker, as it's a non-residential use. That point was noted in the Calorie Sessions memo we received. As far as other site improvements, we're looking to install 2 small water storage tanks, about 8,000 gallons, and those facilitate the water treatment process inside the building. As far as other improvements, we're going to have a small chain link fence area that'll provide security that's typical per DOH requirements, and some site access. There was a few more items I wanted to go through based on our narrative that we submitted as part of this application, but is there any questions so far?
Well, just for the record, it's 1,680 square feet.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Sorry, did I say 16,000?
You did.
Yeah, well, that's 1,680 square feet. Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate that. So yeah, as far as site access for the site, it does receive access off of Brundage Road. It's a small asphalt driveway, and we note that your code does not have a specific requirement for parking, but does allow your board under their authority to make a reasonable interpretation of what's required for the site. We will note that typically this site is unmanned every one to 2 times a day. Somebody from Liberty Utilities typically stops by the site. They check on everything, make sure everything's running properly, and that's it. It's 1 vehicle 1 to 2 times a day. With the installation of the new treatment building, we don't anticipate any changes. It's still really the same process, the same amount of water going through the system. It's just going through a more rigorous treatment process. So I just wanted to note that as far as lighting for the site, we did note in the memo received that you're looking to have glare shields on any exterior lighting. So we're going to comply with that. We're going to have dark sky friendly fixtures. And one of the other recommendations that was made was that we consider utilizing motion detection. I did speak with Liberty Utilities about that, and that's not an issue. So we will incorporate that in our next submission. As far as the landscaping and screening, and actually one more point, just in terms of the building location itself. As I zoom out here, there is parkland over here. This site is undeveloped. It's actually owned by the Arbor Hills Waterworks, Liberty Utilities now. And then there's residences over here on this lot, and this lot, and I believe on this lot as well. So that new building, the location that we've selected was based on a few things. The first being that this area of the site is the flattest. We note that your code discusses steep slopes. So we're looking to avoid that to the maximum extent practical. The other thing would be tree clearing. There's actually a cleared out area over here. So any tree clearing will be minimal, and in our next submission, we'll identify any trees that would need to be removed. The other thing is setbacks from residencies over here. So you see that existing building is located here. So actually that new building, even though it is larger, it will be located farther away from any residencies. So I did also provide a aerial footage of the site. So like I said, there's a few residencies over here. I believe this is the closest structure. And then there's also a building over here. So that new building will be offset by a fairly significant area of woods. The site itself is about 4 acres and actually over 4.5 acres in the R2 zoning district. So it's a larger parcel, which is good. It provides a good amount of screening. And then this image right here shows the site, the majority of the year when you have, trees in full foliage. So you can't even really see this area. So it does have adequate screening. I did also provide 2 pictures. This first picture is the site entrance, and that's off of, like I said, off of Brundage Road. So this is actually late fall, it looks like. So there's mostly leaf off condition, but there is pine trees along the entrance, which screen the site fairly well. That existing building is pretty much centered on that drive. It's right about here, and that new building would go somewhere over here. So I just wanted to show that. Obviously, we can provide more detail on that in our next submission. This is located along the intersection of Walkabuck and Sullivan Road. And there's no site entrance along this side, but I just wanted to show a vantage point from that road facing towards the building. You notice there's a lot of younger vegetative growth in this area. So, the thought is that as time goes on, this screening will only improve. So I wanted to point out those things. And the other thing I wanted to talk to the board about was I noted in that memo that, and this is, I'm just going to read what he said. Site plan approval is required from the planning board, and unless waived by the planning board, a public hearing is required to be held on the site development plan. So I wanted to, respectfully ask the board if there's any consideration of waiving that public hearing. The reason for that being that this is, a public water supply. It's adequately screened. The applicant has no issue with, using a neutral tone color or something like that. And, the other thing to keep in mind is that we're looking to, install this and get this treatment improved as soon as possible. Obviously, we've been working with the DOH on this, and this is a public water supply serving this existing subdivision right here. So I just wanted to ask that you would consider that. I don't know if there's any questions or comments on that.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions. I don't know if anybody else on the board wants to speak up, but let me start with, so I know you've talked about having MCL exceedances, and I went out and looked at the most recent annual water quality report, which was 2020, and that showed no MCL violations. And I'm really hopeful that the members of the public aren't finding out about MCL exceedances for the first time by listening to this, this hearing or this meeting. And I hope that, so I would really appreciate it, I think, if we could get a copy of any notifications that have gone out to the water supply customers, just so that we're, so we're reassured that we're not the source of their knowledge on this.
I think that's reasonable. And I will note that John Kilpatrick has his hand up. He is the applicant on this project. I think he might have some input on this
Right.
application.
Okay, go ahead,
Hello,
John.
This is John. Is the volume working?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear John.
Great. So what I'd like to clarify on the MCLs there's a couple of wells that have gone over the MCL, and as a result, we're not using those wells. Those wells are out of service. So all of the drinking water that we're producing at this facility that's going into the distribution pipes meets all of the health department standards. So what we're doing currently is we're trucking in water in those peak summer times. So we're bringing in trucked in water, refilling our storage tank there and pumping that out to customers. So there's not being any water that's delivered to customers that's above the MCL. And so what this project allows us to do is to bring those wells back into service by adequately treating that water down to non-detect, to remove all of the contaminants.
Great, thank you. That kind of information is very helpful. Because, yeah, I did notice again, on the water quality report, it said well 3 was out of service, and that appeared to be the one that had exceedances. So I couldn't help but.
Yeah, and we test very regularly, and we submit quarterly results to the New York Department of Health. They're a regulator. So, you know, if there was any exceedance of MCLs, that would go through the health department. There's a required notification that we do to customers, and that has not occurred because we have not put water above the MCL into the distribution system.
That's great. Could, is there, if it's possible to sort of give us a document that states that in case we get any questions from the customers, that would be quite helpful.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you, John. And yeah, Janet, to that point with trucking in the water, I think that just you know, kind of goes back to our point about, you know, obviously we're looking to comply with any comments, any questions that the board has, but also looking to you know, get this site developed and get this treatment building online as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, what's your expected approval date from the health department?
John, I believe it's the approval date, or when we need to put this online.
No, I mean, when do you expect to have health department approval so that you could actually commence construction on this?
So I believe we received initial comments already and prepared for resubmission. So I would hope that we get approval within the next, you know, 2 months or so.
Okay. I see Jerome has his hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to say that because of the nature of the project and the public water supply aspect, and that the residents surrounding this are totally aware of this project, I would assume, I would consider approving a waiving a public hearing and to help expedite matters, as obviously not this evening, but once we get a more final submission. Thank you.
Sure.
Did he?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I didn't. I was just clarifying. Are the users aware of the application? I think that was Janet's point.
I'm not sure if they've been made aware of it. Not on my end. But certainly if, you know, there's correspondence that you'd like us to send out to users or anything like that, we certainly can do that.
This is John. I'll jump in on that one. So in this particular water system, Liberty Utilities is the appointed operator by the Public Services Commission. So the current owner operator of this system kind of went defunct. He abandoned this, and then the Public Service Commission told Liberty Utilities, you know, formerly American Water, to take over and be the operator of this system. We've been going through a process with the Public Utilities Commission to purchase this system, so then it would be owned and operated by Liberty Utilities. And the customers are well aware of the water supply issues out there and the lack of attention that they've had over the years under the previous owner. And, you know, are very welcome of us coming in there and making sure that they have, you know, an adequate, safe water supply. As you saw by some of the pictures, there's some nice homes out there, and, you know, without adequate water to supply those homes, customers fear that the value of those homes would be in jeopardy. So they're very aware of the issues that we're working through, and are very appreciative of that.
Thank you, John.
Charlene,
Just for the record, what has been asked about whether the users know about it, I think it would be helpful in deciding whether to waive the public hearing, that we get some sense of the support of the users of that treatment plant, of the new treatment plant, and just put it in the record so it's obvious that there is no issue with the waiver of the public hearing.
okay.
Shirley, yeah, and Charlene, I think that'd be helpful. I mean, the decision to waive the public hearing under the code involves the scale of the improvements, what was considered in a prior reviews, and I don't think those would have taken into account the current situation and, prior public hearings. The decision whether to waive or not will rest with the board, but I guess from a practical perspective, my concern would be that the board acts and then there's someone serviced by this, by this utility that steps forward and says, I didn't know about it and what was going on. So again, it's not a fully legal concern, it's more of a practical one, but I think the board should consider it.
Yeah, so I am a certified water operator, and I would say that, being very sensitive to what customers think, I almost think the fact that it's a water supply would be a reason to have a public hearing to make sure everybody knows what's going on. But I understand the reasons to try to act with urgency. So I don't know that we need to make that decision tonight. I think that the next step would typically be to send this to the building inspector, but I don't know that we quite have enough information here. I think some of the things in Jan's memo about dimensioning the driveway and so forth would say that might not be ready to go. I don't know.
I think you need there's some basic zoning information that has to be provided on the plan. There's really no doubt in my mind that it's zoning compliant, but the building inspector is going to request that information anyway. So my recommendation would be for the applicant to respond to the comments and then take that submission and the board can refer it to the building inspector for review.
Because of the urgency, could we refer it and then they submit any, no, we should send one package to the building inspector. I'm sorry, thinking aloud. Jerome.
I mean, we could, to expedite things, as soon as the package comes in to Kirsten, we can automatically send it to the building department, and maybe you would get a response back in time for your next meeting. That could speed things up instead of waiting until it gets to the planning board, the next meeting, and then you formally refer it to the building department. You could refer it now, subject to the submission of a revised set of plans.
Okay. Actually, Sean, could I ask you to stop sharing so that we can see everybody?
Sure.
No problem.
Jerome, yes, go ahead.
Well, I guess there are two questions. One is a statement, then one is a question. I think that we're dealing with the facility that is improving an existing water treatment system. The Board of Health really deals with the approval of the water system and would assure the service people that are being serviced that this is compliant and not going to be an issue. So it seems to me that, well, in the second part, which is a question that ties into that, is that if we had a hearing and had a notice, wouldn't it be based on, say, a 500-foot diameter or radius, or would we then have a different set of criteria and have to notify the 67 service customers, no matter where they are, what distance they are from this improvement? You know what I'm saying? If we had to comply with the 500-foot radius, we probably wouldn't be notifying all of the users anyway. So there's
Right,
got to
but
be
they
some
would-
other way to satisfy the need to make sure that, well, first of all, I mean, what are people going to complain about? The appearance of a building that protects their water system, that's so heavily guarded and buffered by trees and planting. You know, I think it's not something that's going to be visible to begin
Right.
with.
I think the thing that people might want to ask. So thank you. First of all, I do appreciate that. I think we do have a sign that's generally posted at the location. So that would let people who drive by know, even if we don't notify everyone. But the second thing, and it might be a question that someone might ask. So there's only 67 users. I'm actually, or 67 service connections, and 28,000 gallons a day. That's a lot of water. But so I see where you're trucking it in. This might be, a few questions might come up that really aren't planning board related, but about water quality, expense, so forth, that it might, I know it's not our job to give users an opportunity to talk to the water utility, but that might come out of this. But in any case, what I'm looking for, I think what I would look for is consensus to forward this to the building inspector as soon as a new application comes in. That sounded like a reasonable suggestion from Jan, and if everyone's ready, everyone would be okay with that. Can I get a thumbs up from people? Okay, so we have consensus to do that as soon, and I know Kirsten, as soon as she gets a new submission with some of the items identified by in Jan's memo, we will get that over to the building inspector.
Janet, may I ask a question? Clarification from Jan. This is going to the building inspector for a zoning check only, right? There are
Correct.
no architecturals on this building. There's
No,
correct?
zoning only, zoning only.
Okay.
It probably, it's not mentioned in my memo, but it should go to ACARC as well as a referral.
Okay. So as many.
But there's no
places-
architectural submitted yet. So that should, the ACARC referral should wait until there's architecturals.
Right. What is the timing on those, Sean?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we have two considerations right now for the building type. And that would be either a prefabricated or a metal structure, or a typical, you know, what you typically see with a lot of water utility supply buildings, where it's a CMU split face block. In either instance, because I know there was mention of the building color and visibility and stuff like that, the applicant doesn't have any objection to you know, going with a color that the building or that the planning board would think would be you know, the less, you know, to mitigate any visual impacts. So if that's a concern for the board, we can certainly accommodate that. But as far as prepared architectural drawings, I do not think that we will be able to have those by our next submission in 2 weeks from now. But the other items on that memo, I don't see any problem with getting that over to Kirsten as soon as possible.
Okay, the architecturals would probably go to ACARC, which is the group that would look at that, and we can. They're generally pretty quick on any of their responses. So if we, as soon as we get those, we can forward that on over. So I guess we don't need to make a decision about the public hearing at this time, unless people feel like we should.
I don't think we're going to be waiving the public hearing, or at least deciding that today.
No,
We're not deciding that tonight. Yes, I think that's right. Okay, is there anything else we should do tonight or can do tonight? John, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the public hearing, if it would work, we could get a letter in support from the homeowners association of those customers living in that area, those 67 homes.
That would be helpful.
Okay. We'll work towards that before the next meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, and also, we mentioned in our memo about stormwater mitigation. Any stormwater practices will need to witness soil testing for deeps and perks, depending on your practice. So as you're developing your stormwater mitigation, just understand that we have to witness those tests. You can contact our office directly and we'll schedule a date with you. Okay.
Yeah. Jan, one question on that. So if we decide to use some sort of underground detention system and we're actually doing we're doing soil borings right now on the site, or we're looking to do that soon. Would we need to also do, say we didn't want to rely on any infiltration practices, would we still be required to perform infiltration testing?
Well, we need to see deep
Okay.
test. We wouldn't need to run the perk test.
Okay.
So Jan, I guess we've sort of alluded to a lot of the comments in your memo, but you haven't really run through it. Is there anything else that you want to mention here? And I don't recall, did you say there is a wetland on the site, or?
I don't believe so. I haven't been to the site. I would like to walk it with the engineer. There is a wetland across the street on Brundage, the other side of Brundage. That
Mhm.
buffer probably extends onto the subject property, but probably not far enough to impact where where the project actually is and the disturbance is occurring. But I have requested that the buffer be shown on the plan. We had some basic information to be added to the plan. I don't think I need to go over it in detail. They're very, very close to the 5,000 square foot threshold for requiring a stormwater permit from the town and coverage under the Speedy general permit. That threshold is 5,000 square feet. They're at 4,900 and change, I think, or something around there.
Yeah, 4,800. Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't yet account for the stormwater mitigation. So, just something to look at. If they go over the 5,000 square foot threshold, there'll be another permit or two. The rest of it was just kind of basic information on the plan, nothing of any significance that I need to bore you with.
All right, so I think that's it. We'll see you in a couple, we'll see you next month, see your submission. And I think next month we will make the decision about whether or not to go forward with a public hearing or not.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. And we'll get that letter from the HOA. And if there's anything else that would, help make your decision on that, please let us know and we'll get that information to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is calendar number 05-22 PB. This is the Borough Cafe on 873 Route 35, Cross River, New York. This is the application for the change of use from office to restaurant and yoga studio. And for that,
Yes.
Hi, Steve.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. Tonight I have John Schwartzfeger and Skaz Getchak on the line on the Zoom call with us. Can I share my screen just to
Please go ahead.
get that started here? Okay. Bear with me.
It's fine.
Okay. Open that up a little larger. Hopefully you can all see that.
No, it's a whiteboard.
Yeah, we see white.
Uh-oh, that's not good. All right, let me try that again.
Approved.
Let me just close that out. I'm not kidding. Okay, I gotta move this. That's not good. You can't.
You want me to bring it up, Stephen?
Yeah, if you can. I don't know I had it up earlier tonight with the screen. If someone can access
Yeah,
that.
you put yours down and I'll bring it up.
Okay. Thanks, Jerome.
Got it?
That's not what we want.
You guys like for us to try to bring it up?
I can try it one more time. Let me just see if I put my glasses on.
This should be it.
Oh, there
This
we
is
go.
it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Jerome, you have control of that?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, this is our application. We were engaged by our client in early January. We had an initial call with the building inspector and the town consultant.
Hey,
Just
Steve,
to,
we can barely hear
yes.
you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you. We can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so we had an initial consultation with the building inspector and Jan, town consultant on this project. And it's a corner lot. It's located in an RB retail business zone district. And our client would like to buy the building. It's owned by GHI and their contract vendee. They would like to utilize the footprint and create a cafe using the first floor footprint. With that, they would also like to create some outdoor space with a deck off the north side of the building, which would be accessible with some nice large folding doors to have outdoor seating in nice weather, and obviously have the indoor seating. This application, this project or conversion does not have a working kitchen. The food will be brought in off-site, prepared off-site and brought in. We do, because we're more than 15 people, need to have a unisex 2 toilets on the first floor. And the second floor, we're going to do away with the offices and create a yoga studio, and then take out part of the 3rd floor to create a little more height ceiling, if you will, for that space. But again, no showers on the 2nd or 3rd floor, no showers in the building for that matter. And the septic system is located off the north side of the property, between the building and the road, between Route 35. There's ample parking, we feel, on the site. It's 26 spaces. And we did do a preliminary, or if you will, a water usage calculation and a parking. And we seem to be okay on our parking. We also we received a memorandum dated 3/11, which was last Friday, 19 items. One of the small items was a tax lot. For some reason, when we went to GIS, that came up as 2 separate tax lots. I believe it's 1 tax lot. So that was a typo. So it's the whole corner, at the corner of Route 35 and North Salem Road. It's his property. And we were hoping to go in for a waiver of site plan approval and do the deck and the handicap ramp under the building department purview, if we could. But we don't anticipate any new lighting other than maybe some decorative lighting outside the doors, folding doors by code. But I'd like to see if I could have Skaz and John maybe give you a little talk about your operation there. It'd be helpful for the board. John, Skaz, feel free to chime in.
All is well with everyone. We're excited to, bring this project to Lewisboro. We want to do a mom and pop coffee shop. No kitchen, not a restaurant. No hood, just very low key, book shelving and like a little coffee house. We're gonna do yoga on the 2nd floor. And 3rd floor, we're gonna leave as storage. We're really excited about this project. I think it's something the town needs, a little community center right in the center of town. And
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a business that's not, hasn't been done in Lewisboro yet. The hours are limited, so it shouldn't affect Baccio. We'll be closing at 4 o'clock. So this is more of a breakfast, late lunch thing versus a restaurant thing late at night. We're planning on opening up at 6 and close by 4 p.m. I know that you guys made some remarks about some outdoor lighting. We have no problem with that. We just won't be open. Our whole goal, you know, we have a gym here in town, and John and I are great at creating a community, and we think this is another staple in what Lewisboro needs. It's a great spot. That's about it. Simple, nothing crazy. Everything will be from local vendors in Westchester.
Hudson Valley.
Yeah, and Hudson Valley. We're going to try to pull some of the best products and, you know, give people in Lewisboro a place to go. The outdoor seating, it'll be a seasonal thing. And then when it's bad out, the weather out, we have the indoor seating as well inside. So it's pretty straightforward and easy.
Okay, Jerome, maybe if you, okay, actually, so leave, there you are. I actually just have, so while you have that, the floor plan up, if you go to the 3rd floor plan,
Sure.
That would be the
and
23.
sort of look at it. All right, so the 3rd floor plan, this is a nit. The 3rd floor plan sort of says open to below, and it looks like the open to below will actually be open over the bathroom that's on the 2nd floor. So that didn't quite, if I'm reading that right, that didn't look quite right.
That wouldn't happen. Yeah, that's, I don't know if that plan is lined up. It should line up, but no, that would only be open to the studio portion.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we wouldn't create a
All right.
skylight.
So that was just a nit, but I actually had a question when you talked about having this and everything, bringing everything in. Would the coffee actually be prepared there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
was going to say that could be really not great coffee.
no. That will.
It's a coffee house.
Yeah,
It's a mom and pop coffee house, and we're trying to go with the best stuff in the area. You know, the best coffee around.
It just when you said sort of no cooking on site, no nothing, you know, everything brought in. I just wanted to clarify that. I do think one of the things Jan asked for was a kind of a little bit of a plan and hours of operation, and I appreciate hearing the 6 a.m. 4 p.m. thing, but that would help. The other question I have, I think it shows a one-way traffic circulation pattern, and I don't think that's how it's used now, and I can't imagine trying to come out of that and turn, you know, left to go towards Katona at a busy hour. Could you tell me a little bit about your thinking?
We just thought it would be coming in at a traffic light that's controlled, coming in North Salem and going in through the site there. It just gets narrow at that entrance leaving 35 on the north side. You know, if it's existing and it's grandfathered in, we can keep it as it is.
Were before, Stephen.
What's that, John?
That's how I thought we were going away with that. That's how
we discussed that. Yeah. So, I mean, this was submitted and we discussed that after receiving the memo. So if we take that one way out and just have it as it sits today, where off 35 people can come into the site on the east side, or
we're gonna go how it is today, same as it is today, in and out, wherever.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not really trying to, that was just a part of the old plans.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's
certainly remove that. We can remove that and just keep it as it is today. No change in the parking.
What is the circulation now?
What's that, Jan?
What's the circulation pattern now?
It would be coming in and out, getting rid of the one-way traffic through the site.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in and out, no restrictions, both ways in and out.
Right, that's correct. We would revert back to that as it sits today.
Okay, you just have to dimension the driveway width at the curb cuts there. Make sure it's.
Yep, that's fair enough. Yep.
And
I know we there were some comments that obviously we'll address each and every comment with elevations of the deck, the ramp, and all of that would be certainly addressed in our next submission to your
Okay,
board.
what's the plan for the one story in the back there? What I think used to be a garage.
Yeah, that was a garage, and I don't know, maybe John, correct my memory, about 8 years ago, that was converted to a rec prior to you opening up the gym, recreation facility.
So that's just part of the land we're gonna use for storage. I mean, we're not, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it'll
just
be
part of
it'll
the
be an extension of the
cafe.
cafe.
Yeah, just-
Whether we need to store material, and just kind of keep it run efficiently instead of running in and out of downstairs.
Yeah.
But you had a prior approval for that for.
We had a
indoor
prior
recreation?
approval for a
Yeah,
recreation.
so you gotta indicate what you're gonna use that for, so that, because
Yep.
right now it's approved as rec.
Yeah, we would be willing to give that approval and revert back to a storage.
Yeah.
Not a garage, but storage.
Gotcha.
Right. And that makes sense. You might have, a need to store some of the patio furniture over the winter. I don't know, but yeah, so,
Good point. Yep, very good point.
Flush to the ground floor.
on the deck do you intend to put any kind of screen? That's a pretty busy corner, as you guys know. Would you put any, trees, screening, fencing? I don't know, anything there to kind of,
Yes, there's gonna be either hedge or like boxwoods. We are gonna make this property the jewel of the town. It's gonna be gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a
We
full
are-
gut reno inside and out.
The exterior is gonna be gorgeous. The interior, the landscaping, it's gonna be beautiful. This is our town. We lived here our whole lives. We just wanna do our part. you
Yeah.
know?
Like we're planning on dropping maybe a 50-foot Christmas tree and doing holiday lightings. And that's probably our big focal point of our landscaping around that tree. So we're trying to it's going to look nice. It's going to look really nice, and that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
You'll have to develop a plan, for your landscaping.
Yeah, understood.
That gets approved by the planning board.
That's
you know.
okay.
and, I'm just, as you're doing this, if you're gonna make it a place to hang out, I mean, maybe think about bike racks. I don't know, maybe an electric charging station. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about amenities that might, and if you do think you want to do any of those,
So we're
add
going
them-
full solar for this.
I'm sorry?
We're going full solar for this project. So we will bring a supercharging station for electric vehicles, and we're hoping to bring some bike racks as well on the far corner lot. This will be like a community, that's our vibe. That's what we're going after. Closing it early at 4 so we don't affect Baccio as a business. We're good supporters of them. And, we've known them for a long time as well. So we're not trying to overcross into what they do. It's just been something open for our town.
No, that sounds great. If I just want to make sure anything that you're thinking about doing, as you've talked, sort of as a community center, get it onto the plan so we don't have to worry about that. I think one of I'm sorry. Does anybody else have any questions on this? Yes, go ahead, Jerome.
Just in terms of parking, I see you're using one space for each 2 seats, which reduces it down to around 17 cars. You got 27, but it seems to me that in a coffee shop where you're going to we know historically, anecdotally anyway, that people come and stay, and there's usually singletons and not couples or groups. So you might want to take a look at with Jan at a compromised parking count and see if we need more than that, and maybe some off-site. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that.
Well, I was, if you don't mind, with this. So currently right now, the relationship of Baccio and GHI is they use our parking lot during the night when they're operating. So
Right.
I'm hoping it's a vice versa thing. I'm hoping to get together with the owner of Baccio, and while they're closed in the morning, there's sufficient enough parking for both places. But 26 should be sufficient enough.
This is an In-N-Out coffee shop. There's 26 spots. That's a
Well,
lot.
it's a contradiction there. I'm sorry.
lot of
It's not
seating.
so much in and out if it's a community center, and we know that people hang in there doing their,
They're not sitting down for 2 hours having a meal.
no, but they're doing their Wi-Fi and their office work there. Well, look, you see it in Starbucks, you see it everywhere. So
Wow.
we gotta be in reality
control
here.
some of
That's
that,
all.
the seats.
You have a lot of seats on the plan. There's got to be parking to go along with those seats.
Absolutely. We're gonna make it, if we go 12 outside, 24 inside, sub ratio. So obviously in 6 months a year, they're not sitting outside. But it's all based on seats. So it can keep their furniture and seats. People want to stand and drink their coffee. Might be another thing, but gonna try to.
Our only concern is that there be no off-site parking on the street. There's no street parking there. So it would be a dangerous situation if it did become an overflow. So we should be very cautious on that.
I think if it works out with Baccio, I think that might be a solution that would keep people from parking. We would hope people would not park on the street. Okay.
Would you need a formal, some type of agreement for the record on that?
On a major road, yeah.
What's that, John?
I said it's a major interstate. I don't think anyone's parking on a major interstate. Combined with Baccio and us, there's over 45 parking spaces.
Yeah, but
Hey,
we're
that would be fantastic if we have 50 people coming in every hour. It's just, let's be realistic here.
okay,
No,
but you're just learning about the off-site parking tonight. That was not provided in your plan, and you haven't provided any sort of agreement with Baccio. And you also haven't provided the correct parking calculations on the plan for the restaurant use. So there's a calculation in the code. You're gonna have to provide that amount of parking on site. And if you can't provide it on site, you have to go off site with an agreement.
That's it.
Offsite with an agreement, not a zoning board, Jan, just offsite with an agreement?
I have to look back through the code to see what.
Yeah, we have
it allows
discretion.
you to do. But
What's the
what
calculation?
Okay.
use?
Don't mind me asking.
I'm sorry, can you just let me talk to Stephen for a second? What parking calculation are you using, Stephen? And what use are you identifying the coffee shop as under the zoning?
Because Jan, when me, you, Steven, and Joe spoke, we were all good on this. So this isn't.
Well, we had a very brief conversation, and I didn't recall the deck being part of it.
Yeah.
So, and it's news to me tonight that there's outdoor seating. There's an entire ordinance about outdoor seating that you haven't demonstrated compliance with. So there's a lot to be done. There's different approvals needed for outdoor seating. There's different parking calculations for outdoor seating.
I mean, guys, we are in the middle of COVID and we did push outdoor seating for local restaurants around here. So I'm kind of hoping there's some grievance on that. You know, like there was no problem with Bluebird having tables outside. I'm sure they didn't go through the zoning board for that.
This is a site plan application for a change of use.
John,
I'm not saying excuse me, Stephen. I'm not saying it's not doable. I'm saying that it's not provided on the plan. The calculations, there's no indication of the number of seats. You have to do your homework and get the calculations on the plan so we could see how much parking is needed.
Yeah.
So, what did we?
Yeah, we did one space for each 2 seats, or one space for each 100 square feet of gross floor area, which is how we calculated the 34 seats inside to get 17 parking spaces. But I got to double check if we had the deck included in that.
Okay, if you go over 15, if this is the only, I'm viewing this as and this is up to Joe, the building inspector. I'm viewing this as a limited service carryout restaurant, unless you could find some other use that's allowed under the zoning that it falls under.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go over, I think it's 10 seats, that's a special use permit. I'm pretty sure that indoor, I think the definition of that use includes coffee shops. And that's the only, the only way you can get outdoor seating is tied to that type of use. It's outdoor seating is permitted for restaurants only.
Restaurants only, yeah. So is this considered a restaurant, being that there's no full kitchen on premises?
Well, I'm thinking you're going to be limited service carry out restaurant, because coffee shops are included in that use determination. And that would allow you to have the outdoor seating, but there's all sorts of there's different permits and zoning associated with that, all by the planning board. It all gets done here, but you can only have a certain percentage of your indoor seats on the deck. There's a bunch of different, it's got to be screened. There's a bunch of parameters.
Is that a special use permit, Jan?
Not the outdoor seating, but if you go over 10 seats inside and the building inspector determines that you're that use, then it's a special permit. It's tied to 10 seats.
And that to me is kind of the threshold portal to pass through, is having this go to Joe for determination as to how he's going to categorize the use and what he sees as sort of the approval path forward. So
Joe renders that decision?
The building inspector renders that determination. Yeah.
Joe Angelo, the building inspector. Understood. Yep.
Okay. So, well, I think you've heard some of the concerns here. I think what it sounds like our thing to do is to make sure we refer this next. I think we have to refer it to ACARC, to County Department of Planning, and to the building inspector. And I think we can do all that by consensus. So I'd look for a thumbs up from everybody to say we can send that off. Okay, we got 5 people. So we will refer that. I think, as you've heard, some of the determination here really would come from the building inspector about what kind of use it is, parking, other issues. Yeah, I think I was more concerned about people parking on the road between Baccio and this building. I don't think people park on 35, but an agreement with Baccio sounds like a solution to that.
Jen?
Yes, Jerome.
Yeah, I would just like to say that this is quite a step up from a 7-Eleven, which is what we looked at once before. And I would think that, we seem to be picking on a lot of little things, which are a concern, parking and so forth. But I think it's an excellent thought, and it could become, as you say, an important cornerstone to tie Cross River. But I think there's also the possibility of looking at crosswalks and other site improvements, because kids are going to be coming there from school. There's going to be, which we don't have right now. And by the way, bicycling there is not so easy. There's no shoulders on 35 coming north, coming east. So it would be nice to bring this to the attention of the whoever is doing the streetscaping. I know Dan Welsh has been active on that, but I think it's a grand project, and we certainly would like to see it go ahead. I would.
Yeah, appreciate that, Jerome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our comments should be taken in light of trying to get the best project possible here that complies with the code, and not as a discouragement at any way. I think this really.
Guys, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
It's a very big move for John and myself, and there are certain things we will not budge on. So it's either we get that deck and we handle this parking, or this ain't moving forward, because this is not a small amount of money for us. And we are willing to risk this in Lewisboro like we did with the gym as well. I know some of you had some doubts, or maybe not exactly this board, about the gym, but it turned out to pan out in a very great way for this community. We're very involved, and we want to take this another step, but this is not going to be a small project.
We just want to make sure we're all on the same page with this, so we can, move forward. And if there's steps to be taken to make that happen, great.
And we're not really shying away from building the building up to code. That is something we aren't shying away of, and we are really trying to introduce something that's not in Lewisboro yet.
Okay.
Stephen, look at 220-43. That's deals with uses with 10 or more seats.
220-43, you got it.
Mhm.
And Bruce, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just take it one step at a time. I really think that if you go back to the building inspector, Joe will be very helpful in turning you to those parts of the code that speak to the parking calculations, as Jan has pointed out. You crystallize the use, of the building. ACARC, I would imagine, would be receiving you with open arms, because it's an improvement to an existing building, and it's repurposing an existing structure for something that is much more fitting for the times. And fortunately, the zoning is in your favor. So it's an as of right use there. It sounds to me, from what Jan has been talking about, and I think you've got a good shot at getting what you want, at fulfilling your dream there. But it just has to be, you have to identify more of the specifics of it. That's all.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's great.
No
Thanks.
problem.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay, so I think you've heard some of the questions we have. I think there's some additional work to be done here, but I think we're all waiting for a little bit of feedback from the building inspector. Are there any other questions, either from the board or the applicant at this point? And you do have Jan's memo, so you can look at that. And the resubmission date, I believe, is 2 weeks from tonight. So if you can get things in by then, we will see you at our next meeting, at our April meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is also a sketch plan review. It is calendar number 06-22 PB, calendar number 05-22 WP, and calendar number 03-22 SW. This is the Walkabuck Country Club Snack Bar at 0 Perch Bay Road, Walkabuck, New York. This is an application for beachfront improvements, including the renovation of a boathouse, construction of a pavilion, replacement of the snack bar, and installation of accessible parking and walkways. So I'm not sure who's taking the lead on this.
Good evening, good evening, Chairman Anderson. My name is Zach Pearson and members of the board. Zach Pearson with Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture, here on behalf of Walkabout Country Club. With me this evening is the General Manager, John Asuma, member Peter Hall, and John Doyle of Doyle Coffin Architecture, members of the team. Permission to share my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. So the Walkabout Beach Club is our two parcels located off of Perch Bay Road, on the north side of Perch Bay Road, just off of Lake Walkabout, totaling 9.1 acres. Currently developed as the existing beach club for the country club. If I scroll down here, existing conditions, there's an existing driveway off of Perch Bay Road, 2 parking areas uphill of the lake. There is a large dock, an existing snack bar in this location. The boathouse is here down by the water with an existing storage building adjacent to the boathouse. The proposed improvements, again, include the redevelopment of this area to have a larger snack bar, redevelopment and improvements to the existing boathouse, kind of to bring that up to, give that a little bit of a facelift and kind of repair or take down that existing storage building and create a covered deck area here. One of the reasons for the improvements is accessibility. Currently, right now, there is no handicap access to the main dock area in this location here, which is at a set elevation. The existing snack bar kind of sits in this location. So right now, there's a very steep driveway that drops down from this parking area in a straight line fashion right to the back of the snack bar. And what we're proposing is to create a new access here at an appropriate slope to get down to provide handicap parking and accessibility With that, handicap person would be able to get to the bathrooms located in the snack bar. They would be able to get to the existing deck location here. We are proposing a ramp system here to get them to the boathouse. Again, that's another facility that has existing bathrooms, and they will be upgraded. Part of the improvements also include, upgraded septic, with the new rehabilitated buildings and snack bar. We're proposing to construct or install a new septic system. Currently, the existing septic system is underneath this upper level parking area here. And with the improvements, the health department's going to make us, put it in a code conforming septic. And we are proposing, if I just go back a little bit here and show you on the aerial, we are proposing to install the septic in this location further up the hill, adjacent to the existing basketball court. There's a clearing there. That's where we're proposing to install the septic. There's proposed stormwater improvements as well. We're proposing to capture the new impervious associated with the improvements and treat that in an infiltration system located over here on the west side. The existing well, there's an existing well here, which is a public water supply well. So there are required setbacks to that, which is the reason why this stormwater is kind of so far away from the proposed improvements. And with that, I could turn that over to John Doyle. He can talk a little bit about the architecture proposed with the upgrade of the boathouse and the snack shack.
Okay, for the record, John Doyle from Doyle Coughlin Architecture. Zach, do you have the architectural plans on that?
I do, yeah.
Screen, or do you want me to put on mine?
Sure do.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay. So start with that, with the boathouse first, I think, Zach, the next one. Okay, so this is the proposed design. Zach, you can point out what the existing boathouse is. The existing boathouse is one of the oldest buildings. I've been told that it's one of the oldest buildings on the lake. So everybody can kind of recognize the existing building. And off to the left of it is a open deck with some changing rooms and I think a bathroom in that facility back there on the left, Zach, by where the new pavilion is going. Okay. So we wanted to have an open air roofed pavilion on the to the left of the boathouse, replacing the deck there, and hopefully having some storage underneath it. We were thinking that by putting a foundation in, it might be a better environmentally for the lake if we were to have it as a almost act as a retaining wall to mitigate any water or flow underneath a deck type of space. So that was part of the thinking on that. Located behind the boathouse is a set of bathrooms. There's 2 bathrooms and an outside shower and a changing room back there. So this is all with a flat roof, kind of connecting the other buildings. And then Zach, where his arrow is right now, is the deck that connects the upper deck and the ramp up to the upper level. Now that existing level of deck that's in there is about a 6-inch step down from the floor of the existing boathouse. So what we're doing is we're going to raise that up to 6 inches so that the entire boathouse level is accessible, and then that entire level is accessible to the upper deck as well. So what happens is the whole facility becomes accessible to all people, including with the parking. So you could switch to the next one, I think. And so there's also the snack bar. So with the snack bar, we put it in a kind of set the lower left corner in exactly the same spot as the existing snack bar, and this is just a little bit bigger. And it's using the same architectural language as the existing boathouse. So we try to match that so it has a certain continuity to it. But for all practical purposes, really, I think it'll recede since it's set further back from the lake, and the deck is in front of it. It'll kind of really recede. And the other part of it is that you can see in the lower left elevation, there's kind of a wall cut into the hill, and that's where the handicap parking is. So So from the lake side, and there's two bathrooms off to the right, I should mention, with a fenced area on top where possible HVAC equipment would go, or at least the kitchen exhaust would be hidden from any kind of view from the lake. So from that standpoint, any of the cars that are coming down the hill into those handicap parking spaces will be blocked by the view, blocked from view by the snack bar itself. So with the road itself winding its way down to that level, the concept was really to eliminate that straight shot downhill, as Zach mentioned. It's pretty steep and kind of a lot of water and everything else coming straight down towards the lake and under everything. We thought it might be a better approach. And I think mostly, a lot of it had to do with grade, but also a lot of it had to do with winding it down there between the mature trees, keeping as many trees as possible, and then kind of tucking that into the hillside so that you couldn't see the actual road coming down. And then in place of that, where the existing road is, you can see how Zach's team, Don, the landscape architect, looked at making a walking path that meandered down the hill with a couple of points where you could sit on the wall and look out at the lake. But the main thing being that any kind of runoff could be it's an opportunity really to handle any kind of runoff, make for a more less dramatic walk down towards the grill area down at the snack area and deck, and then make it more accessible for everybody. The second floor of the there's like in the roof, I shouldn't say second floor, it's really in the roof space, so it's all pitched, and there's not a lot of square footage up there, but that would be just a storage area. In the wintertime, they take the kayaks and the sailboats and stuff, and they just stack them in there. So it's a little storage area upstairs. That's from the architectural point, that's really the gist of the plan. If there's any questions I can ask, the idea really though is to make this and give it an upgrade where there's certain problems with the site and certain problems with the accessibility, but they would like to make it so that there's that the facility is accessible to all people. They have elderly people as well, and there's a lot of steps. It's a really tough hill. John Asuma can attest that he has, it can be very difficult, especially walking uphill in the dark later. That there's safety issues, and I think this solves a lot of those issues. I mean, obviously we're building close to the lake here, so we have to we have to be very cognizant, and I think we've got some good information in the reports we've received from both Jan and the Inland Wetlands Board. But I kind of see it also as an opportunity that we can work together to really make a nice project here and take some really positive steps for the lake as well.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead, Jerome.
A couple of questions, John. One is, does SHPO have regulation over this historic building? And if so, have you contacted them? Are they amenable to this type of improvement? And secondly, are you considering any fire suppression systems for the existing buildings or other ways of fighting fire, since it doesn't look like it would be accessible to any of the buildings would be accessible for pumping equipment?
Regarding the historic aspect, I don't have any information on the building. We did a master plan a few years ago, and we tried to research some of the background of these things. I don't have a date on that. I've been told that it's one of the older buildings on the lake, and so one of the approach we took to having a roofed connection to it was to really have a flat roof connection so that it looked like two separate buildings there, and also taking there's a couple of existing bathrooms in the boathouse. So we're going to restore the interior of it back to original, and we're going to move those bathrooms to a separate, almost a separate building that sits behind the existing boathouse. So we have an opportunity to kind of make it, bring it back to the original interior there. I don't have any specific information on it though. Regarding fire suppression, we didn't really get that far with it yet. It's an excellent point. We'd have to definitely have a plan for that, for some version of that, and I imagine we'll get to that in the next phase though.
Right.
We will be reaching.
I'm going to make a note of that actually for to look into that.
Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Since you brought up the fire suppression drill, is this going to be a seasonal? Are these buildings going to be seasonal use only?
Yes. Yeah, I think I think that I don't want to speak for them, for the club exactly, but it's they're typically this is a seasonal use. I mean, they have summer. They have Friday barbecues out there, and maybe John Asuma would be a better one to chime in on this, of course. But this is a summer use place. It's a camp for kids. It's it's really one of the big attractions to Walkabuck is that the country club is that this is like one of the only. This is so unique in that it's the old summer camp right here on the lake, and it's a real prize for people that get to use that.
I just bring it up in terms of considering fire suppression because if you have a seasonal use, it complicates the effectiveness of the fire suppression. Certainly during the unused times of the year, but it's something that you can be thinking about going forward. But
there definitely would be the Ansel system in the snack bar. I mean, that would be definite. I mean, that's an automatic, but other than that, I didn't have any other plan at this point, but it's definitely it's an excellent observation that we got to look into.
Okay.
And that brings up same sort of topic. I'm looking at, well, it's actually not. So if people are driving down, I'm going to change my question. People drive down and they see that the two accessible parking spots are already taken. Is there room to turn around there? Or if somebody is dropping off kids or dropping off, a picnic or something, is there room to turn around and get back out?
I could probably let Zach, but I mean, I think the answer to that is yes. It's sized so you can back fully out. But I think that the actual use of that drive it won't be a drop off. I think they're going to do it the same way that they do it now, where they're at the top of the stairs or that lower parking lot. That would be strictly handicap parking and probably kitchen delivery, but it's not an actual handicap person would be able to park down there. But other than that, it wouldn't be a drop off situation. And it does have room to turn around though. Sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, we did look at the turnaround there. Yes.
Okay.
I would argue that it looks like it's a K turn at best. And as Janet said, if there are two handicap cars parking there, I think a person would end up having to back out. I think you should look at that with a what do you call it, template.
Okay. Yeah, we can absolutely look into that. Sure.
Yeah. My other question is, so it looks like that winding accessible, the new path down ends up having stairs at the end. So I'm thinking if somebody's bringing kids in a stroller or a wagon or something down, they're going to go down the road. I really question just more hardscaping. I guess I'll just say that I would encourage you to think about whether it makes more sense that people would just walk down the road if that's or the driveway down to the accessible parking.
Yeah, Yeah, this was
And-
intended to be a, more of a feature for people. It's kind of an entrance feature like John had described before with walls and such as you're kind of working right downhill. This is the existing grade through here is where the existing driveway is fairly steep. I think it's close to 20%, and we're really not changing it all that much, but we're just kind of doing this little switchback walk here. So, anybody with accessibility issues would be coming this way. And again, when you're at this elevation of the parking lot, you're at the elevation of the bathrooms, you're at the elevation of the deck, and you can make it to every place you need to. So, but that is a good point. We could certainly look at that, the stroller use and things like that is, hey, when you do get here, there is a set of steps to make it down. And, the set of steps is there for a reason. This area is pretty steep. So, this path to be walkable only can be so steep. And, it gets you to this elevation and you're kind of setting on steps. So that's something we can certainly look into.
Yeah, it makes me really question whether you need more hardscaping here, if it doesn't do the trick for that. Okay. I think the other thing that as I looked at this, when you put the infiltrators or the stormwater practices so far away, and I understand you're getting them away from the well, but I don't know how you maintain them if there's a need for maintenance.
So it's typically done with a small excavator, things like that. I mean, there are paths through this, this is a mature forest for the most part. You can make your way through here and get to that location pretty easily. There's paths here to this park. There's a mulch playground here. There's a little stand out here. There's little walking trails to make your way over there. And again, you did touch on it. This is a public water supply well. There's a 200-foot
right
for no, you can't do any infiltration with 200 feet of it. So
could you get access to that through the lake itself, through a barge or have a
absolutely, yeah,
little pontoon boat that would take
yeah, but where are you going to unload it? There's a problem. I mean, even trying to figure out how you get how you get the new docks down there and so forth.
Create that, yeah.
So there's, because I don't think you have a boat launch area.
Sure.
But this might be something that so the thing I was going to say before, the fire department might want to look at this, and I don't know whether I don't know what they would say. There's not a lot of places to access if there's an emergency on the lake, if someone has that. So I was going to say, if you had roads going down or paths going down, that might be of interest to an ambulance or something that would be able to access the lake. I'm thinking there was someone who fell through the ice off sort of between the island and Castle Rock this winter, and the rescue teams started off at the very east end of Wacabuck, but luckily the person got out without any problem, and nothing had to be done. But it really made me aware that there's very limited emergency access to this lake. I'm not sure that that's Wacabuck's problem, the country club's problem, but if there were one of the benefits of this access might be that it gets a little bit closer to the lake if there's some kind of emergency out there. I don't know. Okay, sorry. Rather than keep going up, Peter Hall, you have your hand up.
Hi, Jan, how are you?
Okay.
Good. Well, I just want to thank you. And I think you make some very good points about being able to access the lake, not only for members, but for the public in general. And I think what we're trying to accomplish and through the town and through the Three Lakes Council, as you know, we are stewards of the lake and the water supply. So I think this is a very modest project in the form of its scope and footprint. Our biggest concern is accessibility and also to improve the quality of the lake by moving the septic up the hill, upgrading an infrastructure that, as you know, is extremely old. So, those are our missions. And I think, to your point, we are more than willing to work with the town, the Three Lakes Council on some of these things that you mentioned, and I'm sure more will come up. But I think, you bring up some very good points as far as not only enhancing for membership, but for the entire lake community as well.
Thank you. And again, it's not really your issue, but if there are roads or something anyhow, and again, it would not be for the community, it's for emergency access that I was thinking. Okay, I think there are a couple other points that we really have here. And one of them was in Jan's memo, and I will start to talk about it, and maybe Jan will jump in, but that is that the DEP has 100-foot sort of 100-foot from a DEP wetland, a restriction on impervious surface. And I know that there was a proposal done a while ago for here, and I don't know if you had encountered that or dealt with that in the past.
Yeah, I can speak to that. There is a 100-foot setback to the edge of the lake for the DEP impervious restriction, which requires a variance from their regulations. So very early on, we had the DP out to the site. We did a site walk with them to verify that there were no on-site water courses, and kind of walk them through, what our proposal for stormwater treatment would be here and what our variance application submission would be to them. And again, kind of echoing what Peter said, given the modest proposal of new impervious, in this location, we will be submitting a variance application, to them for this project.
Okay, so when you talked, whoops, I'm sorry, I shut off my video. So when you spoke with them, did they seem to be amenable to this this plan, or did you not really have a lot out of the details done at that point?
So yeah, we had a feasibility sketch, which is essentially what you see here with not as much detail. And given the existing building, the boathouse is right against the lake. The existing storage building is right against the lake, and that's going to be coming down and being replaced. They didn't see it, in their opinion. Yeah, we have to go through the process with them. We have to check all the boxes. We have to go through the process. But again, it wasn't something that a hurdle we were not going to be able to get over eventually.
Good. So their hair wasn't on fire. Yeah. So
no.
And I do. I know you've mentioned the historical aspects of this. So I did a little study, and I'll just sort of let maybe the board know that the boathouse itself used to be one of the Meads houses, and the house next to it, or the building next to it, used to be called the Hen's Roost, and the Mead, that was when all the Mead young girls used to go and hang out there. And that was at one point on the north side of the lake. And then it got moved to the very west end, and then it moved to this location where it joined up with the other Mead house. So they have a lot of history on these things, and you can find old postcards and old pictures of some of these buildings. So I really appreciate your attempt to or the intent to kind of leave that one, the boathouse, alone, and have the rest of the things sort of separated by a little bit of a flat structure. Peter, your hand is up again. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry if I'm, I think, well, the Hen's Roost is unfortunately in disrepair and doesn't add anything aesthetically, I think, from the lake's perspective. To John's point, what we're trying to do is really keep the boathouse footprint as is and, upgrade the historical significance inside by bringing it back to its original form. And same with the snack bar, almost looking identical to the boathouse from the lake. So I think, again, from an aesthetic standpoint, if you're on the lake, if you live on the lake, if you're passing by on the lake, that it will be a pretty dramatic improvement without expanding the footprint too much from our land perspective.
Okay.
One thing Ms. Anderson, one other thing I can say is on the interior, there is an existing fireplace that has been, blocked in, and that'll be, after removing the bathrooms and removing all the wood, built area inside, we'll be able to expose the original fireplace. It won't actually be used as a fireplace because of the fire possibilities, but it'll be exposed as, the stone fireplace and everything. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. I think so. I still would. So I've gone down the road that exists, and I have to say that the Walkabout Country Club has been very generous to the Three Lakes Council over the years. But I have gone down that driveway, and it's quite steep. But I agree. But there's an awful lot of trees and new impervious that kind of comes in. Did you ever consider just kind of keeping that existing road and then trying to build some accessible parking at the end, or is that just not at all feasible or not or dangerous maybe?
That's absolutely where we started. That was the starting point is that existing driveway that's here. Can we use that? And can we get, again, the driver in elevation for everything down here is really this is the large deck that's there. That deck at elevation 487.1 kind of drives everything and your accessibility to get from here to here, to work your way around. And this driveway coming down at that 20% really, to a car to even make the turn and park and to get two spaces, it really didn't work to get in this direction in the way it is now. You couldn't get this low enough and have the snack bar with the bathrooms for them to use and people to get onto the deck. It just didn't work, and then we said, all right, well, if this, if you look, the distance is so short here, we really needed this distance here to get down to that 87 kind of elevation all through here. That gets you that access to everything else.
Yeah, so even if you had come down straight, and I know it's straight, and then gone off to the right here where the curve is sort of, and as a parking, that wasn't, did you look at that at all, or is it just way too steep?
Yeah, the length, you see how the contours are really bunched up here. It drops so quick, you just don't get enough length either to get it over into this, kind of direction.
No, the other direction.
Oh, over here. Yeah, that's right now. Let me go back to the existing real quick. There's a little pull off there now. This comes down and just kind of ducks in behind the building. So there's a little area here where like somebody can sneak a car, but they can't. You can't really back up or turn. And this was the first thing we looked at. Hey, can we make this and expand this? And then you start cutting this into the hill, and you're shortening the length of this driveway by cutting into the hill on the high side. You're making it even steeper by the time we do that.
Okay, it just seemed like it would save you all that regrading that's going on in the effort to make that. And okay.
The only other issue with it too is that you could see the cars from the lake, and so even when they back out, like the people are like right on the deck right there. So you'd have like the cars come in with the headlights down the hill straight through there. And then if they come from the other way, it's kind of all tucked into the trees. That was sort of the idea with it would kind of meander through the bigger trees that are there, not cut them all down to put the road in.
Yeah,
most of them kind of go in there.
Yeah,
though.
a lot of them. That's it. It looks like a lot of trees come down either because of the road itself or the regrading to make the road fit into the hill. And I was just trying to look at something other than that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We looked at a version where the turnaround was off to the left as well. It like Zach said, it was so steep that, we couldn't, just to get it, we had to grade it out flatter going up, I think.
all right. Well, so I thought the really big issues here might be the historical building and the DEP, and it sounds like you've looked at both of those. We have some comments from the CIC, but I think we've kind of covered most of them, which is, I mean, and you are going to need a mitigation plan with one-to-one coverage, and there might be some room to put some on the now I've got to say it, the east side of the new building down below next to the boathouse. There might be some, where you're tearing that down, there might be some room for mitigation in there. But I think I now understand the plans. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, if the board did, I mean, I know the CAC did want to come out and see it. If the board did want to come out and see it, I'm sure the club would be amenable. I mean, it does, seeing it in person and kind of seeing what the existing conditions are and what the buildings look like, and the big dock or the deck that's there, and the buildings and how everything kind of interconnects, that would definitely be something that we would be open to having you guys out to take a look at.
Okay, well, if you stop screen sharing, I'll look at
Sure.
the faces of the board and see if we can, what do you think about doing a site walk?
Yeah.
I think it would be worthwhile.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so typically we do it a site walk like the weekend before our next meeting, but that's Easter weekend. So I don't know if we would want to do that. Maybe instead April 9th. Does that work for people?
Yeah, good.
Around 9 o'clock?
Sounds good.
So 9 a.m., that's Saturday, April 9th, if that would be okay with people. I think now, Jan, I know we've again talked around a lot of this stuff. Is there anything in your memo that we should highlight?
I think you hit the main issues. The building that you've been talking about, the boathouse, is on the state and national register of historic places. The property is also located within the Walkabout Historic District that was established several years ago. So coordination with SHPO is definitely going to be necessary. We had some comments about furthering the SWIP, provided some recommendations on potentially reducing the amount of coverage within the buffer. We'll look to see the wetland mitigation plan as it gets developed. I think getting this to the building inspector will be important. This use is not listed as a permitted use within the underlying zoning district. It's a residential zone. When we looked at this several years ago under a very similar application, there was some research done at that point in time by my office, the planning board attorney, and the then building inspector, and it was determined at that time anyway that it would be treated as an existing non-conforming use. And in Lewisboro, uniquely, there are provisions built into the zoning code for expansion of non-conforming uses. And it's not something that necessarily requires a variance, but there's like an approval authority built into the code via the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow that to occur. And we use that provision for La Chateau, which was kind of a similar circumstance. We had a non-conforming use in a residential zone, and that was a pretty significant expansion, and they went that avenue. So I will provide to the building inspector the analysis that was done previously under the prior application for Walkabuck, and we'll see, where that comes out. But I believe there's an avenue for it in the zoning. Referrals to the fire department, I think, makes sense. Just trying to look through. There's a number of agencies involved, as discussed. With the planning board, you're dealing with site plan, stormwater permit, and wetland permits. They're going to be dealing with the DEP for the variance. I would assume the health department for the septic and change of use, the DEC for speedies, SHPO. So with the extent of permits needed, we would recommend a coordinated review under SECRA. It's an unlisted action at this time. We're preliminarily identified it as an unlisted action under SECRA under the current plan. They have submitted a short form EAF. We've recommended that they submit the full EAF. And once that part one is submitted, I would recommend that the planning board seek to establish itself as lead agency by circulating the plans and the EAF to the involved and interested agencies. So that's not something that can occur tonight, but in the future, that's what I'd recommend take place. Certainly the applicant getting as much correspondence and communication as they can upfront with the other agencies, especially the DEP and SHPO, I think will be important. It's kind of it was a very, I think a very good conceptual plan. It was, a lot of information was provided, but there's additional information as we work forward, especially specifically on the drainage end and wetland mitigation end of things. So that's, I think that's all I really needed to point out. You covered a lot of it with the opening remarks.
Jan, I did submit the drawings to the building department for exactly those reasons. March 3rd, so we're just waiting to hear for some information back from the building inspector on it.
Okay, yeah, the referral generally takes place by the planning board. They'll walk the drawings down just so we'll make sure that he's looking at the same thing we are. Did he get a copy of the site plan package as
Yes,
well?
Exactly the same package you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
And just so you're aware, he'll also take care of the coordination with the fire department. You don't need to send anything separately to the fire department.
Right. So just to try to get us all on the record, I guess I'd look, and again, we can refer it by consensus. I think this needs to go to ACARC, the building inspector, and ask the building inspector to coordinate with the fire department and Westchester County Planning. So if I can get consensus by thumbs up, we don't have to poll on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Charlene Ridgeville. Yeah, Charlene? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. These Hollywood squares keep moving around. Okay, so we have consensus and we will refer this to all of those agencies or to those groups. John, I noticed you had your hand up before. Was there a CAC comment that we might have missed here?
Well, again, with the trees, when they're putting the mitigation plan together, given that they're removing trees, and again, I guess we'd like to know if there are any specimen trees in there and stuff like that. We'd all like to see maybe some of that covered in the mitigation plan as well.
Yeah.
Understood.
Great. Okay, so.
Just for John Doyle, if you go on the Google and just go for Walkabout Historic District, you'll see the draft as a draft National Register of Historic Places registration. There's like 56 pages of photos, including the boathouse.
Okay.
I think that might be the ticket right there.
Okay, great. I did make a note of that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else at this point? Okay. So again, we've referred it, we've set up a site walk, And so the site walk will be reported out at the next meeting, even if there's no additional submission or any other information. And perhaps we'll have something back from the building inspector by then. So I think we will see you again in April, and that again will be in person.
Yeah,
Right.
well, we're going to be, going through the comment memos. We're going to try to respond to everything that we possibly can at this point, and kind of move the ball forward. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Zach, if you can at least, if nothing else, the EAF.
Full EAF, yeah.
Yeah, if you tackle that, your plans are in good enough form for circulation. So if nothing else, at least let's get it on the agenda for the intent to be lead agency once we have the EAF.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a number of things on there that we feel we can get done in the next 2 weeks, including the EAF. And also, I think I mentioned to you we've been struggling with weather, on and off snow. The health department and DEP will not test with snow on the ground. So now that we're, knock on wood here, hopefully got that behind us, we'll coordinate with your office to set up testing and we'll get that behind us as well. Just moving on.
Sounds good.
Great.
Okay, so moving on to calendar number 07-22 PB. This is again the Walkabout Country Club with a lot line change with the Harder residence at Carriage House Road and 128 Mead Street in Walkabout, New York. Again, just an application for a lot line change. So, Michael.
Yes, good evening. Michael Surignano, and Tim Allen is with us as well. I'll be brief and then turn it over to Tim. This is a pretty straightforward application. The club has a once in a generation opportunity to acquire just under 5 acres, a square piece that juts into club property and is surrounded on 3 sides by the golf course, the front 9 of the golf course. And so the Harder family trusts are trying to sell their entire 48-acre piece, and they're willing to give us a brief opportunity to get a lot line change to carve out just under 5 acres, which will become merged into the club property. And then the Harder estate or the Harder trust will then sell the remaining whatever 43 acres in the main house, tennis court, and pool to whoever wants to buy it. And so we're under a little bit of time pressure. We have a contract of sale, but the Harder trust didn't want to tie up the property or tie their own hands in trying to sell the majority of the site. So we have until May 16th to get lot line change approval from you folks. As I said, the 4.8 acres will be merged into club property. No structures are being proposed or even anticipated or dreamed of on this particular property. Perhaps sometime in the distant future, I believe it'll be the 4th hole might be extended from a par 4 to a par 5, but there's and also it's a defensive move by the club. The last thing we want is to have a house, and it would be a large house given the neighborhood, built with our 2 or 3 of our golf holes wrapped around it. So it's both defensive move and a look to the future, perhaps expanding a par 4 into a par 5, which would add many strokes to my score. But that's the project. So I think we qualify for a waiver of a public hearing on preliminary lot line change or subdivision. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I wanted the board to understand we have some contractual time pressures and we don't want to cause the Harder family any hardship. So Tim, would you tune in and put up the lot line change map and describe it?
Sure. Tim Allen, Bibbo Associates. As Michael said, this is kind of put together in haste, and I apologize. What I want to do is to actually give you a little context of what we're doing here, because as Michael said, there's nothing really being proposed. There's no houses, no improvements proposed. If I share my screen now,
You see this, the aerial here?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
Of course
I'm
not.
seeing everybody still here.
Oh, no.
There it goes. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
There it comes.
Okay, so basically, we're talking about a piece of property right through here, which will be conveyed to the club. You can see this is the clubhouse area over here. Parking for the club is here. This is the Harbor residence. So basically, it's a strip that almost looks like it belonged to Walk. It should have been part of Walkabout years gone by. And this being the second hall, the third hole coming out of the this little area here, tee shot. As Michael discussed, this is the fourth hole, par 4. The only potential improvement, and it's not even being contemplated right now, is to possibly extend this hole through here. Many years ago, back in the late 80s, early 90s, we had proposed a subdivision for this property, and we had a house right here. One of the board members, or one of the club members, had bought the property and put the kibosh on the subdivision. But we had proposed development for this property in the past. As Michael was saying, the last thing the club wants to see is a house there. So basically, it's taking this piece, creating 4.8 acres, taking this lot line, and conveying that to the club. It's really that simple.
Okay, so if I can just ask, usually when you see something that's carved out like that, there's a purpose behind it. So there's nothing under there that's not a septic extension or anything that would impede that there's a reason that belongs to the other parcel.
No, there's nothing there.
Just an accident.
Yep.
Okay, Charlene, go ahead.
I have two questions, I guess for Michael. One is the country club is R4A and this property is R4. And so I didn't have a chance to look at the code. What are the differences between them?
The club operates under a special use permit.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the club has a special use permit, which if we were ever to expand the fourth hole, we'd have to get an amendment on. But I don't see any zoning issues here. It's
no, I was just wondering the change. And the second question really is as to the tax assessment. What are the tax implications moving from residential to the country club?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that tonight. I could look into it, or I know, and get you a response.
Remember, that's not improved land. So I couldn't speak to that either, but it's not as if you're conveying land that has improvements on it.
Hey, Jerome?
Yeah, I mean, I think the overarching issue above and beyond questions Charlene's bringing up, which may have some relevance, but more relevant is the fact that it does close and complete that the country club rectangle, and it doesn't do damage to the other. It's a 48 acre lot on the other side there.
Right.
So they're left with 44 some odd acres. There's certainly not any danger of isolating it or restricting its use further. So from my point of view, this is something that we should expedite quickly and accommodate the sale of that parcel to the club.
Okay, Charlene, I see. Is your hand still up? Is it up
Oh,
again?
I'm sorry.
Or is it just still up? Okay. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, I think there is one thing that we need to do again, and unless you had anything else to show us, Tim, maybe we can stop screen sharing so I can.
Sure.
Okay, take a look at people's faces or thumbs in this case. So I think we're allowed to waive the public hearing as we've been asked if there's no zoning nonconformity. So if we send this to the building inspector, which again, we can do by consensus, then he can tell us that there's no zoning nonconformity. I mean, I'm pretty sure there is, but we just should check it. So can I ask to refer it by thumbs up from people? Okay, everybody, Greg, you okay with that?
To the building inspector, is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Refer to the, yeah.
Yep, okay. So everybody's, so we have consensus to refer it to the building inspector. I think in the effort maybe to move things along, assuming that the building inspector will say there is no zoning nonconformity, what we could ask is for Jan to prepare a resolution to be considered. And that way, assuming we hear back from the building inspector as we expect, we would be able to take action at it at our next meeting. Would that be agreeable to the board? Okay, and that again, we can do with consensus, right, Judd?
Yes.
Okay, so consensus for a resolution, and I'm seeing everybody okay, Charlene? Yep, okay. So, so if you would be willing to do that, I think we can move this thing along as rapidly as possible. So,
the club appreciates that. Jan's memo gives us, gives me and Tim some housekeeping items, which we're going to jump on right away.
yeah, so if we have that and we have the feedback from the building inspector and a resolution underway, I hope we can make your deadline. I was looking and said our next meeting after April is May 17th. So we're kind of got the gun on.
All right.
So we will do our best.
Okay. Appreciate that very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
great. Okay, bye. Assuming we have nothing more on this, let's move to our next item, which is a site development plan review. This is calendar number 4-21 PB, calendar number 42-21 WP, and calendar number 08-21 SW, 397 Smith Ridge Road, LLC, 397 Smith Ridge Road in South Salem, New York. It's the application for an addition to an existing self-storage facility.
Okay, it's me again.
Hi, Michael. Okay.
Okay, so I'm here tonight with Stephen Kaplan, who's the principal owner of the LLC and operator of the self-storage facility, and also Alan Pilch, who's our project engineer and landscape architect. So I'll give you a brief introduction and turn it over to Alan. So back in 2012, your board granted site development plan review approval and wetlands activity permit approval for Stephen to build and operate a 45 self-storage unit facility. Was then on undeveloped land, just under an acre, 0.93 acre site, which is zoned general business. The planning board also adopted a negative declaration of significance under seeker at that time. The proposal now, I guess Stephen is to be congratulated for a successful business plan, because the proposal is to increase the storage lockers by adding 2 additional single-story self-storage buildings containing about 2,800 to 2,846 square feet. And they're proposed, and Alan will get into this in a minute, they're proposed in a grass area that backs up to an existing fence that presently exists. Alan has also designed an expansion to the existing stormwater management facilities and has come up with some wetland mitigation plantings that he'll show you in a minute. So as I said, Stephen has experienced demand from town residents and others in the area for the existing self-storage buildings. For example, in the past 15 months, we've been fully leased. And in the past 6 months, 15 customers moved out and 15 new customers moved in. So these figures show not only a demand or an unmet demand exists for town residents and others in the area, But they also, I think the figures also demonstrate that this is a very low intensity use for this general business zone site. As planning board members know, general business is allows for the most intensive commercial uses in town. And this is really a very low intensity use. The 2 additional self-storage buildings will not be substantially increase the activity in and out of the site. They will not be visible from Route 123. We have letters from commercial neighbors, past and present, supporting the application. So the new single-story buildings are no higher than the existing units. Alan can show you a section through the property that'll graphically, visually make it clear that we're not building any units higher than what's already there, and these are going to be hidden by the existing buildings from the road and from the property to the north. The building inspector tells us that we will need an area variance because the 2 new buildings will increase our lot coverage to 23.52% when 20% is the standard. So we're going before the zoning board next Wednesday. I think it's March 23rd. We have a public hearing to request a variance on that. We also need the planning board to refer us to ACART. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Alan to put up his site plan and mitigation plans and explain whatever changes have been made since he last came before you.
I share screen?
Okay, yes, you may.
See if this works. Is that visible?
Yes.
Excellent. I don't want to have a whiteboard show up or something like this. So, so briefly, I'll just go over what the changes are. So existing at the present time, first of all, Route 123 is here. The main entrance is there. There's a single L-shaped building on the north and west sides, north being to the left. And there's, I call it a freestanding, or building number 2, which is in the center. And what's being proposed is 2 buildings in the, call it the central or portion of the property. That's what's being proposed on it. At present, the existing chain link fence runs right through here, almost in the back of the 2 new buildings. So this is actually just a grassy area here. So it just extends just slightly beyond where the existing chain link fence is located. But that's what's being proposed. So the changes to the plan since you saw it last include, I'll just flip the next sheet. From a stormwater perspective, was the addition of a new pretreatment facility, really, which will end up being close, I'll say, more akin to a it's like a septic tank, 500-gallon septic tank. It's really what it is, a concrete septic tank, essentially, what would be proposed here. What happens is the flow from a catch basin located here, because this is a paved area to allow access into these storage units. And this catch basin, which is needed for drainage purposes from runoff in this portion of the property, is conveyed into the existing stormwater chambers. There are 55 here. We'll end up losing a row, or actually constructing on top of it. But with the new impervious surfaces that are being proposed here, we're actually proposing to add 16 more chambers. So it's 4 rows of 4 chambers end to end. And we submitted calculations to show that the peak rate of runoff leaving the property would be less than under following the addition of the 2 buildings when compared to the present time. The other item in the plan too was the widening of the entrance into the property. The Vista Fire Department requested a minimum 15 feet. As you can see at present time, that's the curb line here. That's the existing curb line here. It's about 11 feet or so. But there is room here just to be able to get 15 feet of space into be able to provide 15 feet width as requested from the by the Vista Fire Department. And I'll just say the final change to it as well of the plans that were submitted was an extensive planting plan within the buffer, which also included the addition of a planted area in a 20-foot wide strip on the adjacent property, which is 401 Storage Corp. And Mr. Kaplan did provide and has executed or has agreed to an easement agreement with 401 Storage in order to use that for planting purposes. And on this drawing, there is a list of plant materials as well, all native, which are being proposed to basically restore this sort of area in back of the two new storage buildings to be installed. The existing wooded steep slope here will remain as it currently is. And when you get down to the bottom, off, at the property line, which is located here, and 20 feet off the property line, this area too will be planted as well, primarily with shade tolerant shrubs. But what it will do is provide a more diverse habitat than what's there presently. In addition, the planting area will be surrounded by a deer fence in order to protect the plants from browse from deer, which are, frequent the area. And I'll just point out too, again, that the state freshwater wetland is located off the property. It's roughly 50 feet from the property line located here to the border of the state wetland. A 100-foot buffer extends along this line here. And so as you can see, the two new buildings are completely outside of that. But the 150-foot town wetland buffer line is located here. So a portion of the property was already, that's this portion from the old curb line, was already constructed within the 150-foot town wetland buffer. And these two new buildings would be entirely located inside it. Perhaps what I could do is just also show, if I may just be able to show a section through it, just so you can see what it does look like. This is Route 123, property line, existing building 1, which is that L-shaped building. This is the access between building 1 and building number 2. Building number 3 would be essentially very similar to building number 2, but building number 3 and 4 is just slicing through building number 3. And then, as you saw before, the 150-foot wetland buffer adjacent line is in back of building number 3, so it's not within, the 100-foot buffer line is there. There's 150-foot town wetland buffer line is here. This is the 100-foot DEC wetland buffer line, which is to the, behind this building. And this is essentially that, I'll call it loosely wooded area in back of the buildings that would be, restored with plantings. Wetland mitigation plantings would be located here. The property line is through section there. The easement line ends here, and about 30 feet beyond is the wetland buffer line. So that's really what is being proposed. I know there were certain comments that were provided from the town planner. And I'll just also mention that in our discussions with the New York State DEC, that there will be a need for a Article 24 wetland permit application. This is primarily for the proposed, it's indicated to us, the fact that there is a mulch path that's being proposed to provide maintenance, access for future maintenance of this area. That's what's shown here in the shaded line. And because a deer fence is proposed to protect the plants, so we are preparing an Article 24 permit application to DEC, and that is being prepared by Evans Associates. And, with
I would
that,
just add the easement area that Alan showed you is already an existing condition, and there are plantings there pursuant to a written recorded easement, and Alan's new plantings would be within the same easement area.
What plantings were there, Michael, before? I don't understand.
Alan, what's there currently?
are you referring to this area here?
The 20-foot easement, yes.
Right now, it's just a wooded area. There were no plantings in there
Okay.
previously.
All right, but there's,
We're restoring this area here, which is within the property.
right, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Just
I
for
wanted to make the point that the easement is in effect. There's already an agreement. We'll provide it to the board and to Jan.
Yeah, Michael, there had been an initial sort of draft provided to me, and we were just sort of waiting to see how the ultimate mitigation plan would bear out.
Right.
But I'm comfortable that we can work out whatever needs to be done from a recording standpoint too.
Right.
Thank you, Jed. That's good to know. So
Michael, does the easement allow for the town to obtain access to the offsite property for inspection?
I haven't reviewed it recently, but I will, and I'll get that answer to you.
Okay.
And if it
Yeah,
doesn't,
but yeah,
if it doesn't, we'll make sure it does.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's been a standard condition or provision in these types of easements. So.
Yeah, it was just, I was surprised that it was already signed and executed and in place. So if there needs to be revision, I would imagine that we'd be able to revise it.
Yes.
okay, so does anyone have any questions on the plan? Or should we stop? Oh, go ahead, Jerome.
Just a quick one on that cross section, Alan. The building number 3 and 4 on the east side have retaining walls that will exceed, I think, the 4-foot maximum that would require structural engineered. Just a reminder for you that they are retaining walls, retaining the soil under the slab. And
they're really part of the building itself. So it's really part of the footing per se. In back
but
here,
you had mentioned that the front walls, I think, were just 18-inch haunches. But I think you may want to have some other consideration for that back wall. Take a look at it.
That's fine. So we'll arrange that. But along this back wall, you're correct. But
Exactly.
this is actually supporting the building. So it's really part of I'll call it the footing and foundation for the rear of the building.
The architect is aware. Mr. Corner.
It's a good
The
point.
architect is aware.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kaplan.
Thank you.
Okay, so I saw you had your hand up. That was for that. So you wanted to
Yes.
make sure. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so
Do you want me to unshare for a moment?
if you would for a moment. So, because I think one of the things we just heard is that this should get referred to ACARC.
Yes.
So, and again, that's by consensus. So I'd look for thumbs up from everybody to say, yes, we can send it to. Okay, so Kirsten, please make sure this gets referred to ACARC. I think, I know, John, did we hit the comments for the CAC on this?
Yeah, I believe we did.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the things, because last time the mitigation did not get maintained, I think maybe this time would be advisable to ask for a bond for the mitigation. And we should plan on that as part of the process going forward if people agree on that. And I'm sorry, was that a hand up?
I'm playing mea culpa. Mea culpa? I totally missed the boat on that. So whatever you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm not clear. So I know we got a letter from the building inspector that said there had to be 20-foot, they had to have 20-foot turns or lanes in there. Is that included in the current plan, the response to the building inspector's letter on that point?
While Alan's looking it up, we actually provide 24 feet lanes. So I wasn't sure if the 20 foot.
It's 15 you have 15 at the gates. You expanded it.
15 at the gates, but I think it's like 24 feet or so, 25 feet between the buildings.
Yeah, the buildings. He was focused on the access to the gate. Joe, the building inspector.
He wanted 20 rather than 15? Is that?
No, he wanted the 15. I think that's.
So he asked for 15 specifically. He said, visit the site with a Vista fire chief, confirm that a 15-foot width at the keypad would be sufficient for fire department operations.
Okay.
I agree, Alan.
That was his February 8th letter.
But yeah, we just had a comment about the odd curb configuration there. I'd like to see that be a more consistent radius.
Yeah, it seems like there's a pinch point there that brings it back to where it originally was, the 13 feet. And there ought to be just maybe a smoother curve.
Yeah.
As John is suggesting.
And Janet, if you don't mind, I'd just like to go through the memo.
Sure. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
So I guess, have you gotten a denial yet from the building inspector to go to the ZBA? What's your?
Yes,
Okay. So when do you expect to be before the ZBA?
next Wednesday
Okay,
night.
perfect. The DEC permits required. A comment that we had was that the DEC wetland validation has expired. So we'd like to have the applicant confirm with the DEC that they're still going to keep the boundary the way it is. So
I'll just say I will reconfirm that with them, but we did ask whether or not it had to get re-verified, and they did not indicate that it did need to get re-verified.
Okay, if you could just ask specifically whether it needs to be verified or not.
Sure.
So we can get a confirmation from them. I do support the bond requirement for the landscaping. It's customary. We did have a failed wetland mitigation with the last round. I think the deer fencing will help, but this is a site that has no water services. So I'd like to see what the applicant has in mind for irrigation, especially for the first year. I think that should be noted on the plans, some sort of maintenance protocol.
We got water from the neighbor last time.
Yeah, maybe not enough. I don't know.
It's on me. I tell
the wetland mitigation looked good. It's over the 1-to-1 requirement. The access path makes a lot of sense. We didn't have any comment on the proposed mitigation plan other than the maintenance of it. We had some stormwater, a couple comments on the stormwater, which I won't get into detail with. That was about it. The curvature of that, that the radius on that curve, I think it gets smoothed out as discussed.
Can I ask you for clarity on that? I know that it's a one-way entrance at that gate, and the gate is basically almost stressed to its limit as far as length. I think the one on the entrance is slightly longer, but that's really stretched to its limit. So considering it's a one-way in, loop around and one way out, I just wanted to mention.
It just looks like that pillar needs just to go over a little bit. You can connect the having a much smoother radius on that curb.
Oh, on the inside curve. I thought you were talking about the outside.
No, the outside curb.
Outside.
The entrance, it's on the right.
Where the bollard is, where the bollard is.
Yeah.
No,
No, there's some sort of, is that a column or something that the gates?
There's a post so people don't hit the keypad.
No, I think we're in different locations.
Okay, well, maybe
No, the
Alan.
other side too, there's a place where the gate comes down, there's a post there to sort of block the entrance. So,
Oh, yeah, it has to lock into that.
you know, so that there's no access. There's not even pedestrian access there unless the gate goes up. So it sort of prevents the general public from getting in unless you have a code.
I don't know that we're talking about, maybe you want to put up the plan again. I thought Drum and I are on the same page, I think.
Let me see if I have. No, I know what you're talking about, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I have it here if you want to.
While you're putting that up, we know from history, from daily use or weekly use, that the circulation works, but we're happy to tweak it however.
Yeah,
this isn't a major circulation issue. It's just an odd shaped curb configuration.
Right here, can you see my screen share?
Yes.
I know you're looking at this point right here.
So it's this point right here where it's on the right-hand side. Is that where the keypad is, right there?
That's where the receptor for the gate is. So gate closes into that receptor. So there's no gap when the gate is closed. If we move that receptor to the south, there'll be a gap between the end of the gate.
Well, you might have to
receptor, and the gate would just swing back and forth in the wind.
Well, maybe you have to get a different front gate.
Can you extend the gate?
I'm saying there's a limitation on the width. I can certainly look into it. I'm just letting you know that's why that funny configuration.
Right.
But since it's a one-way and the fire department equipment is less than 15 feet, I'm asking whether, if for the fire department said it was okay for their equipment that they use, whether that would be acceptable.
I don't think it's preventing fire department access. It's just an odd configuration.
Yeah.
Remember too, that curb there is going to be removed along that curve that goes in front of
this piece of curve. This piece of curve right here.
Yes, but further along, that goes in front of building number 4. That curb is also removed. So go up further. I could show you on our thing. That curb there is removed.
Will be removed. But the curb before, Alan, the curb before the gate, why is that moving over?
Before the gate, so we can have 15 feet, because currently it's only about 11.
I see.
It's being removed here. Well.
Yeah. And that's what's resulting in the funny appearance of the letter.
Right, but this pinch point over here brings you back down to 13 feet, which I can't see the point of widening this and then having the pinch point here.
Oh, I understand. I thought that was 15 feet. I guess
we'll take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you need some more dimensioning there just to prove it out that it's all 15 feet.
I was going to say, I won't even deal with that now. I was going to bring up a picture of it, but I won't do it.
I guess it does. The understanding that other curb's coming out, that the configuration does make a little bit more sense. So, just maybe show some additional dimensioning there just to make sure.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll provide an enlargement of that area for construction purposes.
Okay.
Good.
Did you have more in your memo, Jan, that you wanted to cover?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. So we know they're going to the ZBA next week. Do we, or maybe later this week, not tomorrow, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe they're going to the ZBA at the next meeting. Do we want to have a public hearing on this? We have gotten a couple comments, and if so, when, I'm just thinking, we We have to hear back from the ZBA, but we can get that as a report, even if we don't have the resolution yet, as long as they give us the details of that. Would it make sense to try for a public hearing in April, or are there enough information? Do we need enough? Will you be able to get the resubmission in 2 weeks and get the details out, or should we plan for a public hearing in May?
I defer to Alan and his schedule.
Well, I'd rather just move this forward. I think these are very straightforward comments to move this forward. So whatever works in your calendar.
I don't even know that you need a resubmission to have the public hearing. The plan, they're very minor comments at this point. The public hearing is mandatory because of the wetland permit.
Right. So we would ask that it be in April if the board has room on its agenda.
Well, we will, let's try to, so again, do we need to, it's been a while. Do we need to just do this by consensus for a public hearing?
Yeah, you just need to set it consensus and direct Kirsten to begin sending out the notices with the
Okay.
applicant.
So I think we have a few things I know scheduled for April, but I think let's plan to keep things moving. And if everyone agrees, we'll put this on the agenda for a public hearing on April. So hearing no objections, let's plan for that. Okay.
And referral to ACARC, you've already done that?
I think we did that already.
Okay,
You did.
good.
So that's where we are. Okay. So I know that we'll probably want a report on where you stand on the Article 24 from the DEC as well. So, okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
right. So the next item on our agenda is the minutes of February 15th, 2022.
I move we approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you, Jerome. Second by Greg. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll pull the board. Jerome,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
and I also say aye. So the minutes of the February 15th meeting have been adopted. Okay, I move to convene an executive session of the board for the purpose of discussing the employment of a firm in response to the town issued RFP for the comprehensive plan services, and to appoint Judd Siebert for the purpose of taking minutes at this executive session.
Do you want me to do the breakout?
We need a second first.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Greg. I guess I have to pull the board, or any discussion on this? I'll pull the board. Jerome,
Yes.
Bruce,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
and I also say aye. So we should have at the bottom, let's see, breakout rooms. So
I don't have one.
So,
all right.
well, you don't need one. I just have to do it if I'm going to do it.
I think we have, let me open all rooms and everybody's.
Yeah, we have to
already-
get a link for a breakout room, right?
No, you put into it. But is everybody going in except Jan, or?
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, everybody's going in except Jan.
Okay,
Take care.
so
Good night, all.
Good night, Jan.
So,
good night,
so
Jan.
there is something that's set up.
Okay, so we're all here. So can we just stop recording?
Right, I thought that's what we said we were gonna do.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
just stop recording.
I think we lost Janet.
Oh dear.
Did she
Come
go in
back.
the breakout room?
She froze and then she dropped out.
I'm going to put her back here. Here she comes.
Last time you all left, I put a note on the screen saying that you were in executive session, you'd be coming back later.
Wait a minute, Janet, I have a pop-up that says Janet Anderson.
Yeah, she's inviting us in. Okay, so just join Janet.
Join.
All right.
Okay, we're back. So I think what I want to do is just announce the next meeting date is April 19th, 2022. We will be meeting in person. We will have, I hope, at least a recording, and we don't know yet if we will be able to have a YouTube stream. That's up to the town. So with that, I'd look for a motion. Oh, go ahead, Jerome. You're muted. You're still muted.
No, I make a motion for adjournment, please.
Okay. Second by Charlene. Please, I like the please. Okay, I'll poll the board. Charlene?
Aye.
Greg?
Yes.
Jerome?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
And I also say aye, so the motion carries. We are adjourned at 10:30 p.m. Thank you all for the relatively long meeting on the Ides of March. So